All right, my friends, welcome on in. This is an impromptu live. I've been playing around with what time of day would be best for everyone to be able to do this every day, Monday through Friday. And so I am testing out the 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But if you couldn't guess by the thumbnail and the title, we are going to be discussing a few things today, one of which is obviously Karen Huger's verdict, which came in last night, which was she was found guilty on 5 out of the 6 charges. And obviously, if you've been sleeping under a rock today, then you missed that Fox 5 DC did put out the body cam footage from the night of the DUI. So we're going to discuss that. I'm not going to play the entire video. I am going to show clips of it as I talk through it. Just because I feel like it's out there at this point. I don't need to keep replaying it. And, you know, we get the point, you know? So, but anyways, I want to talk through what I have been able to find out. This morning, I did talk to some of my sources that are connected to the situation. And so I want to kind of add in some other details, not taking away from what has been put out there already, but there are some minor details that I did find out about that, I thought were interesting. So we're going to discuss that. And then obviously we need to discuss and recap the latest episode of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. La Vida Loca, it was. The ladies are not doing so well in Puerto Vallarta, it seems. So, at any rate, I will stop the chatter and get into the show. So, let's get on into it.
We need to talk about this. Every rumor, every twist on the Georgio Says Podcast. We need to talk about this. So hit that play, stay in the know. Georgio Says, still the show on the Georgio Says Podcast.
All right, guys. So, yes, we are here. I am live. I know. As I said at the top of this show, I have been trying to come up with the perfect time that would work Monday through Friday. And so we're playing around with this time. So obviously, let me know what you guys think of this time for Monday through Friday. This is Eastern time, 4 p.m. Anyways, I hope everyone's doing swell. I hope everyone is gearing up for the holidays. We're coming into the close of another year. And yeah, doesn't seem like it's ending on a good note for Karen Huger. If you've been following the situation or watching Potomac, then you understand what is happening. And if you were up last night, then you caught the verdict came out that she was found guilty on 5 out of the 6 charges. So, it was probably not the best night for Karen. Now, you know, there's a lot more that I want to add to that. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I did speak to a couple of my sources that are connected locally to the situation. And then I did some other looking around and asking of questions this morning. Just asking questions around if there was more context to the body cam footage. Was it, obviously it's pretty straightforward. She's inebriated, right? That's not a question. But at any rate, I figured, there were some things that, I felt would be good to, add into this timeline because some of it makes more sense why there was even a trial. A lot of people are asking why, she let it go this far when clearly from the body cam footage, it's open and shut. But, anyways, I want to break it all down for you. So, let's get into some quick tea.
Georgio Says, quick tea, quick tea, quick tea.
All right, so let's jump in to this Karen Huger situation. Obviously, we know um, that there's been the body cam footage that has been released. Just so you guys are aware out there, I am not playing the audio for this just because I feel like a lot of the audio is her super inebriated and saying things. But I'll get into that a little bit later. But I have my notes here because, as I mentioned, I did speak to a couple sources that were, connected in various ways. And then I wanted to, see if there was more context because obviously we know, or I shouldn't say we know, I have come to know that a lot of times, if not all the time, body cam footage is edited and stitched together. So let's start at the top. So the night of, there was obviously reports that, when the police arrived on the scene, allegedly, there was, a smell of alcohol coming from inside of the vehicle. And uh, one of the sources explained that the reason being was that she had planned on doing crabs and such. And so she had purchased the crabs, and there was obviously beer because, if you make crabs, you use beer. And she, I guess, bought some other bottles of alcohol. However, when the car unfortunately crashed, the bottles broke, and so therefore that's where the reeking of the alcohol smell. So that was point number one that I was given around that point. And then there was another point where I was told, so this is alleged obviously, but the source is pretty solid, but I'll say allegedly, there was no medical attention provided. So allegedly the cop on the scene, I believe it's actually the cop that's in the footage that is driving her in one of these body cam footage uh, situations. Let me just get to it. There we go. So allegedly she was not given any medical check. I think what the person explained to me was that, she was checked quickly, vitals, I'm guessing, but it was also said that she had suffered a minor concussion. And so, because she'd been standing and they had her up and questioning her. And then obviously, we later see that, we saw in the first clip that Ray was there at that point too, but Ray was not with her in while she was out. He was not with her. I saw some comments saying, why did he not drive her home? Like, he didn't go out with her to begin with. So she called for him. He showed up. So that's why we're seeing him in that one piece of the body cam footage. So I was told she also wasn't allegedly read her Miranda rights on the scene, and that from there the plea deal was 60 days, and she said no to that, and that is why it then went to trial. And so I was also told that the jurors came to kind of a deadlock situation allegedly at a point, and that this deliberation went on for about more than 5 hours, just about. I think the actual verdict came out about after 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Uh, there was just a couple of the charges I guess they couldn't come to an agreement on, but nonetheless, she was found guilty on 5 out of the 6 charges, and she is scheduled to be sentenced on January 29th. Uh, this is Karen's second DUI, but the first offense was 15 years ago. Not that that makes any difference, but I think when you're looking at it from what I understand, what I've researched based on the state of Maryland, because obviously it varies state to state, right? But in Maryland, you know, I know a lot of the reports are saying she'll face up to 2 years jail time, but the minimum to that is about 5 days. Now, obviously, there's fines and other things on there that she's going to have to do, but I would say that I don't believe personally that she's going to do anywhere near 2 years. I don't even think she would do anywhere more than 60 days. And I think if they did, she might do a little bit of that time in jail. Like they might have her scheduled to do it, like where they set it up where Friday at 5 p.m. she goes in and then leaves at 7 a.m. Monday morning. And then she does that for however many weeks it takes to, to run its course. There's a lot of variations to this. But I think, the issue is that, I saw some other people saying, well, why are they showing her body cam footage? They don't do this to anybody else. Well, that's not necessarily true because we had body cam footage released when Luann, if we remember, Luann was actually like assaulting the police officer. And we saw that immediately because they obviously put that out because they were probably like, pissed off with her or whatnot. But, my thing is, as a public figure, as a reality star or any of that, I think it's even more important that you don't put yourself in situations where there's a high risk in that kind of, because no one's going to care. People are going to throw the stones, right? There was probably 2 arrests for DUI yesterday in the state of Maryland that I saw quickly as I was doing research. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of bad behavior on the roads, and a lot of people still take the chance and the risk by getting in a vehicle, even though they shouldn't necessarily do so. It's always it's as long as I don't get caught, but it's more than that. It's, someone could have died, right? The same thing with Shannon Bedore. Uh, it is the what if, but it's enough of a point to say what if because it is that important, and people have lost loved ones because of stuff like this. So I think it's really important now that, we kind of take this forward and Karen, does the unpacking she needs to do, and hopefully she can start to come to terms with why maybe some of these things were happening. And you know what, maybe she is in the middle or the midst of doing that. I did see her lawyer, I believe it was E News or E Online rather, he had been quoted saying that, they obviously respect the judge and the jury's decision in this situation, but he also said he respected Karen's right to appeal it. And this is where I'm kind of lost here because I don't think that there's much room to appeal anything in regards to this. I think this is a situation where we're going to have to absorb it and understand that we have to take accountability for the fact that we made a terrible decision. And yes, all the other details, all the things that I spoke about earlier that, my source told me about, those are just added details, but none of those other things, in my opinion, would have taken place if she didn't get in a car and drive. You know what I'm saying? Like it's now it's time to just take the accountability and let's move forward. And when January 29th comes, I'm sure she'll, whatever the outcome is, I'm sure that will also take weight off of her shoulders because this has gone on for some time now. So I'm pretty sure that she's very, very exhausted mentally, emotionally, and as is everyone around that's involved, right? And she also did recently lose someone very close to her. So, that's also, it's just not been a great time, it seems, for her. But this situation was her choice and she needed to uh, deal with it. And now it seems that, we'll see what the judge thinks is the right punishment for her actions. So I don't know if I'm I'm seeing hey guys, I'm not ignoring you in the chat. I wanted to get through that. I'm just looking here because I did make a post as well on my Instagram where I saw that people had posted the story about Karen Huger and her verdict. And uh, on Instagram when someone you follow likes a post, it'll show you their name and then it'll say like others or however many other people and there's that name. So I saw that Charisse uh had hit like on the post, which of course she's being messy because, we know and shout out to is it Windianer for saying so everything Charisse has been saying has been potentially true. I mean, listen, I don't know. I have never really heard of that, and I live around here and know a lot of people that are connected and run in the same circles. I've never heard the things that Charisse was saying in those episodes when she was on last season or the season prior, I think. I don't know. I'm not saying it's never happened. I don't know if it's at the level that she's saying. I just think that there's other things there with Charisse and Karen, so I'm sure I don't know why anybody would bask in someone else's like downfall though. Like I think this is pretty serious. I think whatever beef or issues, you know, they were having, I think that can be put aside. I think this is pretty big. I don't think it's something to, uh make a shady moment out of. But at any rate, it will be interesting to see if well, I guess it depends. I thought about this. I mean, obviously this secure people are saying this definitely secures her for next season. Yeah, and maybe I don't know because if she actually has to do time, which again, I don't believe they will do that. But on the other hand, I don't know because it seems like they also are trying to make an example out of her. So perhaps they will make her do some jail time. But it's also likely they could just make her be under house arrest. So, whatever the normal jail time would have been, maybe they double it for house arrest. I don't know how that would work, but I'm sure there's a lot of different things they can throw on the table. Thank you, Jeffrey, for the super sticker. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Nikki Cart. Yes, the reunion is about to be crazy. About to be crazy because we know it's gonna be brought up. Uh, so, but I will definitely keep you guys posted on what's developing on that. But I think we're pretty much locked in on where it's at until she's actually sentenced. So, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and jump in so we can discuss Salt Lake City because these ladies are clocked in and all of them are working overtime and I just can't stop talking about them or thinking about them. So I'll stop talking now so we can talk about them.
Georgio's Real Housewives episode recap. We need to talk about this. Let's get into this episode recap.
All right, let's talk about last night's episode of Salt Lake City. It's so good. It's so good. I can't tell you guys enough. I know a lot of people are still not watching it for whatever reason. I've stopped trying to figure that out because I think at this point it's in a league of its own and they are proving their weight in gold, and every week they deliver. And no, not every week is like super high stellar, but pretty much every episode there's some kookiness or some wackadoodle happening and shifting of like alliances from episode to episode. So it's definitely got my attention and I am loving the season for various reasons. But this episode, a lot of things stood out to me. And, obviously I don't know. These are my theories, these are my opinions. But from what I'm seeing and what I saw in this past episode, there's a couple questions I have in regards to Bronwyn and maybe her intentions for why she actually is on this show. But, we need to start at the top because, we have Heather, Whitney, and Angie all meeting up to do water aerobics. The ladies are obviously in Puerto Vallarta. And, you went. Water aerobics is no joke. Okay. Like, I wouldn't be able to, like, I hate a lot of resistance to begin with. But, there's and it's true. I think Angie said it. It's good for your, like, if you have certain, like, if you have knee issues, which you don't need to be a senior citizen for that. I mean, there's people like I had a shoulder issue. My rotator cuff was messed up for a good while. So I mean, so certain things like that. It's like so. Anyways, after what seemed to be just about 5 minutes of doing that, they got out, and Heather immediately wanted to bring up Todd, Bronwyn's husband. And listen, we've been watching here and there. If you've been watching, you've noticed here and there, obviously, when he says something, it's pretty much law, and he calls the shots, and she's got to listen, essentially. But Heather feels like, because when Lisa explained what Todd and Bronwyn's relationship was like, she explained it like, oh, well, Todd is very obsessed with her. He loves her. He treats her so well. And then Heather's like, but then every time pretty much we've been around them, he's really rude to her. He's dismissive. He's just mean, and I can't say I disagree with those statements, right? But then we find out, and I believe this is unseen footage, but when they were in the Sprinter van from, I guess, the day before, Bronwyn was explaining when she got attacked by the dog, and it wasn't just a little nip or bite or scratch. I mean, she got mauled on her arm and her leg. Like that was a serious attack that she dealt with. So when she was on her way to the ER, apparently, she couldn't even get him on the phone, Todd. Now I get it. He's a busy businessman, right? But can we be honest for a second? At this stage of life, Todd, how busy are you really when you're the one that's at the very, 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 very top, right? So why aren't you answering your wife's phone calls? That's number one. And then number two, the assistant then gets a hold of him because she's got to call his assistant. Then he gets on and just assumes, oh, it's just a little scratch. You'll be fine. But then when they're at the ER, Bronwyn's daughter FaceTimes Todd and is like, actually, no, it's actually pretty serious, dude. So, I don't know. I think that's really messed up. But then again, I feel like the relationship is set up in a way where she is kind of treated like an employee or just any other person that works for Todd. And she seems to understand that assignment, but she is still a human being. So and we saw that a little bit later, which we'll get into. But, it's clear that the man is set in his ways and there's no one or anything really that's going to change his stripes. So, that is an issue. But it seems that Bronwyn has painted Todd and her's relationship to be this very magical, experience. And I'm not saying it hasn't been for various reasons. Obviously, she gets to live very nicely. She gets to travel. She gets to buy the best of the best in terms of, fashions and all of that fun stuff. It just seems to come with some restrictions. And maybe some of those restrictions are some of her needs are not being met. And maybe they weren't on the table to be met. And that was okay at a certain point. But things have changed. And that's okay too. Because that's what's generally happening in relationships. But more specifically, in my opinion, when you have someone that's that much younger than their husband, the younger person is going to go through different phases of life. And if that partner can't hang, it's not going to work, right? So I fear that there's other motives for why possibly Bronwyn would join this show, knowing the personality that Todd has, right? So, they're pretty much all in agreement. Yeah, that's very messed up, right? And from there, we get everyone ready pretty much to try to get themselves together to go on this yacht that Lisa Barlow has retained for them to use. And she got everyone goodie bags. And here's my thing. This is where I was starting to get a little lost. I think it was last week. It was last week's episode. Bronwyn digging into Lisa putting her in the other villa, not with her, right? But from what it sounds like, her room is still literally right next to Lisa's. So it's probably knowing how a lot of the spaces are in those situations, because Jeff and I have gone to Puerto Vallarta so many times. It probably is a situation where, yes, you would walk outside for a second and then you could just knock on the door and she would be like, it would be as if that would be a hallway, but it would be outside, but they are close. So I do believe that. So maybe Lisa wasn't doing it right to punish her or put her in her place, as she keeps saying, which I'm still confused about that. But nonetheless, she has this issue with it and, wants to keep digging at it. She wants to keep digging and digging and digging and digging. And it's just starting to feel like she's expecting Lisa Barlow to just be her bodyguard because she's new to this group, meaning she's new to this show, reality TV, how to play this, how to play that. And it's like, well, you clearly were really motivated to join this show, because if you weren't, you wouldn't have come out guns a-blazing, because since you hit the screen, you seem like you've been ready to do this for quite some time. But then as we got to know you and got to know more about your husband and then your guys' interactions, it's starting to seem like maybe you act a certain way outside of being around your husband. And you've also been telling people, like Lisa Barlow, for instance, that your marriage has been nothing but it's hunky-dory. It's butterflies, it's cupcakes, it's, all of these things. And maybe it's not, and that's okay. Nobody's marriage, partnership, relationship is ever just hunky-dory and butterflies and cupcakes, unless you guys are high all day, every day, and don't have to worry about paying any real bills or having real responsibilities. Then I think you're in a small percentage group. But the rest of us, yeah, it's not easy. You do have to manage things, and people, like I said, people change, evolve, grow, and things happen along the way. It's called life, but I don't think that at this stage of life, it seems that Bronwyn's going to be able to get that type of support. But I also feel like she knows that, right? So she's not really coming out of the gate asking for anything. She knows that, but it still sucks. And I'm sure it's still painful at times when it is needed from someone like your husband. But Father Todd ain't having all that mess. And he does come off very condescending. And I can't be certain if that's just how he is, or is he aware that, if he says too much, so maybe he comes off a little colder for that reason, because, he's an old school businessman, keeps a very tight lip. Who knows? But it's definitely rubbing, you know, the Heathers and the Whitneys of the world wrong. But, we get to this boat ride, right? Yes, Lisa got everyone a goodie bag, including Bronwyn. And we get on this yacht. Meredith, by the way, I don't know what's going on with her. Maybe perhaps she was sick. But when she was on the Sprinter van, she passed out within, like, it said 15 minutes. Which I understand. Like, people get tired. These are long trips when you're filming these, like, housewives trips or whatnot. So I get that. I'm not giving her flack for that. But I just feel like she just seemed off. Like, she just seemed like she wasn't all there. So I feel like there was something else going on in the background, which Brittany kind of tries to bring up or tries to allude to later in the episode. But so that was strange. But yeah, so she took a little nap. And even because Whitney was like, "Are you okay?" Because it wasn't just like someone who was just relaxing, like seemed like someone who maybe wasn't feeling well. But she said she didn't get a lot of sleep the night before. So, anyways, we get to the yacht. This yacht is beautiful, by the way. And, the ladies seem like they're starting off well. They're having a good time. They're dancing. They don't have rhythm, but they're dancing. Meredith chose not to dance. She didn't want to injure her ankle. Good idea. She just sat there and enjoyed her cocktail and watched. And everyone performed a little dance show for Bronwyn as she judged. And then, while the ladies are just, enjoying themselves on this beautiful yacht, and I must say, there were some screenshots I was getting when I was doing my short recap for TikTok and Instagram. And I had to stop for a second. I was like, were they really on a boat? Because it looks so crisp and the colors are so vivid when you're watching it. It almost looks like super cinematic, but almost like it's green screen, but like really good green screen. You know what I mean? So I'm like, wow, what a beautiful day to do this for them. Because it's like, but Lisa Barlow starts talking about how her and her husband have been, spending a lot of quality time loving on Henry, their younger son, because he's the only one at home right now. And, she's just doting on him and sharing, exciting things. And, we all know she takes pride and joy in making sure she's the best mom to her sons. And so she loves them immensely. And I don't think that anyone really doubts that. But I think when you've heard back on some of the things that Henry's gone through, I think these moments where it's become a more positive situation is making her feel a lot better. And so I think she was just sharing a moment and everyone was just, happy for her. They're like, "Oh, wow, that's cool. This is funny. Oh, he loves all these fragrances, blah, blah, blah." And then all of a sudden, because up until this point, Brittany's laughing and agreeing with everyone, just joining in on the conversation. And then all of a sudden something glitched and she was like, "Oh, wait a second. Let me check my clock." It's been like 10 minutes and no one has even bothered to address that I was upset that last night when I told you guys that my daughter, who hasn't spoken to me in 6 months, finally came over and spent the night. That's a big deal. And they're just kind of like, Okay. The problem there though with Brittany is that I think she's just doing things to make it about herself, right? But at the same time, love bug, the only thing we know about you is all these, this love triangle that you're in, and that your second marriage, okay, was the reason why your daughter stopped speaking to you. So, like, for me, I feel like I need more context in that situation. If you're going to share that much, you need to share the rest, because I can't be excited for this like sleepover you had when I don't know why I'm excited for that. What was the How did that happen? You know what I mean? How did we get here? But first of all, why did that happen to begin with? Why did she just stop talking to you? Because all you care about is, from what we've seen, is these guys getting guys' attention and not being sure and keep making up and breaking up. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, I think the focus should have just been on her story, trying to get back to mending fences with her children, daughter, whatever the situation is. Be honest about that. Who cares about this Osmond guy that you keep making up and breaking up with? It's a joke, in my opinion. But anyways, she wanted to make it a moment for herself. And Bronwyn chimes in. She says, "Well, do you is is it important for you to just say that you're about to make an announcement, or is it important for you to say that your daughter, who hasn't talked to you in 6 months, finally came over and spent the night at your house?" Now, is that a bitchy comment to say? Yes. Is it valid and true? Also, yes. But Brittany turns right around and basically calls Bronwyn says, "You're such a bitch." And Bronwyn's like, "Okay, right, right. Because every time we come together, I'm the bitch. I'm not good enough for anyone, my husband, my dogs, and now not any of you, clearly. So yeah, I guess I am a bitch." Anyways, so Lisa obviously is sitting next to Brittany, and she's just kind of like, "Oh God, like, okay, this is going left." But I didn't find that to be a moment where I would have expected Lisa to chime in, because I don't know. I don't know. I thought about it thoroughly, and I said, "Okay, fine. If I was with someone who I've known for a long time on a show with a group of people, and they were maybe not the kindest or welcoming to me for the most part." I feel like there's only been one or two people that she hasn't really got on with truly on the show outside of Lisa. So it's really not that bad. However, she's also very strong, and she seems like someone who can really stick up for herself, right? So I didn't feel like in this moment when Brittany called her a bitch that Lisa would then be like, "Don't call her a," like, because it starts to come off like Lisa Barlow is now Bronwyn's mouthpiece because they've known each other so long off. Like, that's not the vibe either. And I truly do believe you really want to be on the show, babe. You gotta deal with your stuff, right? If you have a problem with Brittany calling you a bitch, don't do the like, right, right, and then expect someone else to chime in. No, you can say something. You can fight back for yourself. You can say, "Don't call me a bitch, Brittany. Don't do that on a boat." Like, there's a lot of ways you could handle that on your own. I didn't think it was that deep where Lisa Barlow not chiming in is another reason where it's like, "Up, not there for her friends." Like, it's just, I just feel like Bronwyn's really just expecting a lot out of Lisa Barlow, and it's not fair really, because it's not all on her. And I do believe that there are certain people that just have a lot of factors that go into being their friend. And I think Bronwyn, from what I've seen, I don't know her personally, so I'm just saying, she seems like a very, very high maintenance friend emotionally. And I say that because she keeps clinging to Lisa Barlow every single chance she can when it comes to sticking up for her. And then again, on this yacht, like Brittany called her a bitch and she didn't stick up. She didn't stick up for her there. But then we find out, Bronwyn's been dealing with a lot in her marriage. And why has no one bothered to get to know her by asking her questions about her rather than jumping to conclusions? And that I can agree with. But I also will say she also came in with the energy of someone who didn't really need or want someone to ask too many questions, if that makes sense. Like she, in the beginning, was putting off an energy like, I'm a badass bitch, and I'm not saying she's not, but she definitely wasn't giving what she gave on this yacht, on this episode, which was what I thought was very vulnerable and very brave of her to share that. But I'm confused. So we get into this story, and she shares, Bronwyn, that Todd cheated on her a couple years back. And her daughter saw it because he was on his iPad, and I guess he was messaging whoever this person was. And Bronwyn's daughter went to go speak to him, and I guess she came up over behind him over his shoulder and saw what was going on the iPad. Father Todd probably can't log into his Facebook account, but he sure knows how to message a little side piece. I mean, anyways, so now her daughter is tasked with going back to her mother and letting her know this news. Now she says she confronted Todd, and she also said that she understands that Todd is someone who is who's constantly seeking a challenge to be successful and always looking for the next thing. And so basically what she's saying is that she is just a number, and when he gets bored with her, he likes to go have fun with something new, shiny, and good. Because why? He can. Why? Because he pays all the bills. Why? Because it allows Bronwyn to go and buy the Moschino hot dog couture piece that she wore on this episode, among other things. So yes, when you're in situations like that, the power dynamic is nowhere on a scale. He has all the power, quite literally. You are a guest. So yeah, there may be times where he does disrespect their relationship, but he knows how to make up for it, because then she says he got her a ring with 5, gems or diamonds or whatever it was. It made 5 additional promises that he didn't make in his initial vows to her. And she's okay with that. But is she? Because someone who's okay with it would have been like, yeah, like, listen, I've seen those TikToks where it's like, if you're with a billionaire boyfriend, husband, let's just say husband, billionaire husband, and you walk in on him cheating, I'm not wigging out on him. I'm saying this for myself. I'm not wigging out. I'm not. The minute Jeff becomes a billionaire, I will bake muffins for him and his side piece if he wants. I don't give a shit. She's saying she's okay and they've moved on from it, but emotionally speaking, she's crying. She's clearly not okay with it. It clearly is messed with her further, because it makes her feel even more like she has zero value. She's not worth anything. She got pregnant out of wedlock. The father's family discarded her and said, "You're worth zero." Even the child that came out of it, it's worth zero. Bye-bye. Then she goes and builds a life for herself, meets Todd, secures a stable, very good life for her and her daughter, right? Good. Great. I love that for her. But along the way, she also changed and adapted. Those shiny things only last and do good for so long. So she has a lot of stuff that she probably isn't being met with when it comes to, like, when you look at it from like your husband supporting you. Now, as she's sharing this, Lisa Barlow is not giving maybe the reaction that someone in a situation like the rest of them basically were giving. They were very like, it actually made them want to open up and discuss what's going on in their marriages, which goes to show like it's not perfect. No one's marriage, no matter how it's presented on social media or on television, it's never perfect. And you never know what goes on behind closed doors, right? But Lisa Barlow, in my opinion, was not giving the reaction maybe the others were because I think she was confused. I think she thought, wait a second, where's this coming from all of a sudden? Because every time we've spoken, every time I'm around you guys, it seems like everything's great. And you always speak so highly about your relationship and marriage. So it's, it's quite confusing, I'm sure. So that brought me to my next point of thinking, well, then is Bronwyn on this show because I know I joked about it earlier because I was like, why would you bring your husband on here unless you're trying to make him look horrible and show him for who he is so you can get the courage to go because now you got a job. But now I'm really thinking like, wow, is this your like, is it your motive to come on here? And that because you were very quick to share that all of it on this yacht. And it clearly still stings. It bothers you. It's hurtful. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. But it's just odd. So I understand, right? And then we get the soundbite where they're all walking back to the Sprinter van. And, we get the soundbite of Lisa talking to Angie. And she's like, what did you think? Like, basically, like, what did you think of that? Because I think she's trying to be like, wait, it can't be right. Like, is she doing this for the show? Are they playing this up? Does Todd know that she's talking like this? Because also Lisa is the type of person that looks at it from the stature of where someone like Todd sits. He is a very high up person when it comes to like entrepreneur, CEO, businessman, whatever you want to call it. So she is thinking about it in that context. Is that blaming Bronwyn or being a bad friend? I don't know. You guys can tell me. I don't think so. I think I would need to know more information because if I didn't know anything about that and you shared everything so positive, but then you're being emotional now on camera and you're saying all of these vulnerable things, and I would be thrown off, to be honest. But when we get back, Whitney and Heather and Angie are sitting with Bronwyn, and Whitney more specifically really wants to push this whole thing about how Meredith and Lisa Barlow, they were basically trying to side with Todd in the situation because, one of them has, allegedly cheated and one has been rumored to be cheating or have cheated. And it's like, but Whitney, didn't you cheat as well? Like, I just find it so odd when people that have done something like that then call out or try to create a thing around it, a rumor that someone else possibly may have done that. It's just weird. But nonetheless, they're putting in Bronwyn's head that, they definitely, Meredith and Lisa were definitely siding with Todd and making you basically victim blaming you. And I didn't read it that way. Honestly, I think Lisa's reaction or non-reaction rather was more around the shock and like she was probably thinking through a lot of things. What's Todd going to think about this? What's really going on behind their closed doors? Why would she only talk about this now and not tell me before? it's just weird. Like, I would think that's weird. Meredith, on the other hand, I don't think she was blaming Bronwyn. I think what Meredith was trying to say was like, listen, sometimes you may want something from your partner and they may only be able to meet you at a certain capacity that to you is very low on the scale, but to them that is their max. So you either accept it or you don't. That's it. But it's also, in my opinion, true to say that I'm not, and this is no excuse to cheat, I never would be accepting of that behavior unless they were billionaires. Okay. But the point is that in those situations, like, there are, when you break it down, the ones that have had situations like that occur and stay together and they work through it through therapy and whatnot, 9 times out of 10, they uncover a lot of things that were not being, no one was aware about, right? Maybe some individual on one side was closed off. They weren't being mentally open as much as they could have been, or mentally vulnerable, or emotionally vulnerable, or, even sexually open or vulnerable, or whatever those things are. And time takes, and I'm not saying this is a general statement because this isn't, people cheat sometimes just because they like to cheat and they like the thrill of it. I think in this situation, it's 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 not that Meredith was blaming Bronwyn or saying that it was her fault. I think she was just trying to point out, like, sometimes it is what it is, but it's up to you guys to define how your marriage works. So take that for what it is. It could mean a lot of different things depending on how you want to analyze that. But I didn't feel like they were siding with Todd. I didn't feel that because I would definitely call it out. But, I know a lot of people are seeing it a little differently. But I feel like Lisa Barlow is being unnecessarily come for from Bronwyn's side, at least. And I feel like it's just trying too hard at this point. And it's being a bit whiny, if I'm being honest. Anyways, the ladies have to head to dinner. And, listen, it's not a Salt Lake City dinner, specifically one that's, on vacation when the girls are away. That's not chaotic. And this one was no different. But one thing that was great was we do have Mary. She finally arrived. And she wasn't really thrilled to see any of the women except for Angie. And I just love their relationship so very much. And I know I've said that before, but I will continue to say it. It just seems so, it's so lovely. That's what I'll say. I think there's just an understood vibe. They get each other and they respect each other and they have each other's back. And that's clear. And I love to see it. So we do have Mary, thank God. We've missed her, but she had more important things to sort out, which was her son. So glad that she was able to sort that out and get him into the proper treatment. And now she can enjoy this trip in Puerto Vallarta. While she's trying to enjoy her dinner, we find out that she possibly ordered pastrami soup, which is very confusing to everyone at the table because I've never heard of pastrami soup. And then we figure out, because Lisa decodes it, she's like, oh, wait, is it minestrone? Oh, right. So she ordered minestrone soup, not pastrami soup, because what would that even taste like? But her food was seemingly taking a lot longer to come out for what she ordered, which was some soup and a caprese salad. But, quickly we get into the situation where Brittany is trying to have a moment again, because before this, she'd gone around and she'd gone to Heather and said the night before, throwing up and crying, right? So then Heather goes and tells Angie, and then Angie goes and tells Bronwyn. So now it's become a thing. Now it's like pretty much everyone at the table knows that last night Mary Marr was throwing up and crying all night, which would explain why she needed to take a little napsy doodle before they got to the yacht. She was exhausted. She really did tell the truth. She did not sleep well, right? But it's not because they really care. Brittany's not asking her because she cares, she would have gone straight to her if that would have been the case. And I think it's quite messed up, Brittany, that you're doing that to Meredith when Meredith's the one that actually has been standing up for you and supporting you the most with all of your wackadoodle antics. Okay. And she kicked out Angie from her event for slut shaming you before she even had the whole story. So the fact that you're doing this to just be messy and try to have a moment again is crazy. But the look on Meredith's face was like, look, I'm exhausted. Okay. What's up, Brittany? Like, what is the question? Like, cause she brought it up so randomly, like, so Meredith, so you were tired earlier. So was everything okay? Cause like so then everyone starts talking about it. And then Bronwyn's like, well, yeah, I mean, if it's gonna come all the way to me, I, yeah, I mean, you don't have to answer anything, but it seems like it's been a thing because it's word that's been traveling all day. So, yeah, do you want to answer what's going on, Meredith? Because I'll be honest with you, there is clearly something going on. Yes, maybe perhaps she's not feeling well, maybe she's got the bug, but if it was simply that, Meredith Marks would take every point, in my opinion, to say that she's sick, show that she's not feeling well. So this is feeling a little different. And I feel like Brittany is kind of trying to bring up something that maybe Meredith didn't want to have to go into explaining. I'm not quite certain, but then things shift into, Angie and Meredith are about to start fighting all of a sudden, but then Lisa chimed in. And then now Angie's snapping at Lisa Barlow. You guys know I do not like that. I don't like my girls fighting like this, right? They just made up, and here we go again. But that quickly gets diminished because then Bronwyn again jumps in. And now it's about Bronwyn going after Lisa again and going and going and going. And then we have, Angie, who's back in the ring, I guess, because I guess we're gonna start this engine back up with Lisa Barlow. And I will say, you guys know, if you know, you guys know I adore Lisa Barlow and Angie K very much. I adore all of them, but I really like them and I really liked them as friends. So this is throwing me, for a loop. But Bronwyn's really, really trying to hone in on having this issue with Lisa, and she continues to bring it up. And she says that the reason why she keeps bringing it up is because they've never been able to just have a full-on conversation around it and get through it. That's not really true, because every time you turn around, you've moved on from something, there's another issue. It's never good enough. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, bringing gifts for the girls, although it's not the biggest deal and it is very kind of her, doing it on someone else's hosted trip you're also being a little, you know exactly what you're doing. So that's why I'm saying, like, when it comes to Brittany calling her a bitch, well, yes, Brittany had every right, in my opinion, to call her a bitch. If someone said that to me, right or wrong, she has a right to defend herself in that situation. Someone comes out being condescending and rude, right? So Bronwyn should stick up for herself, defend that. You said it, you defend it. Why is Lisa Barlow got to be tasked to fight your fights? So we have this whole banter, and then we go round and round and round, and then before you know it, it is a cloud storm. Mary is like trying to eat her soup. Everyone's talking about Meredith throwing up. She's like, please stop talking about throw up while I'm eating this soup, because now it's starting to look like throw up, and that's disgusting, as it is. I hate when people do that, when they talk about something so gross in the middle of someone eating, and the thing that they're eating is similar to or it's on a movie or any of that. It's like disgusting. So totally there with Mary. But the issue lies in that Lisa Barlow continues to be attacked. For whatever reason, I think I know what it is. She's confident in herself. She's secure with who she is. She's not trying to impress anyone, and she don't give a shit. She says it the way she wants to say it. You can like it. You don't have to like it, but she's not going around trying to make up stuff. It is what it is. And so I feel like now this is looking like Bronwyn's just trying to cling on to Lisa in this, like, we're going to feud kind of way, because that's going to secure her, obviously, the most camera time. And we can make my husband look like garbage, so I'll be motivated to leave him. Finally, allegedly. My own theory. But it results in Angie trying to speak, basically talk about how Bronwyn was so vulnerable on the yacht. And, then she says something that I do think was very mean. And so I will say that, Angie, that was mean. You didn't need to say that, because that's not true. Although Bronwyn shared a lot of vulnerable and, very, very intimate information about her marriage, private information, a lot would say. Angie saying that she shared more in that conversation than she knows about Lisa, that was wild. And I think that would make anyone upset if you guys were truly friends, which they were. Because otherwise Lisa wouldn't have had that reaction. She's very emotional about that, made her very emotional, because it makes it seem like, so then what was I sharing then? Is everything fake? Right? So Lisa Barlow's had enough. She's in tears and she wants to go home. So she leaves the table and she walks off. And Mary just looks up annoyed. She's like, "Where's the dessert?" And that was the exact ending we needed until next week's episode. Episode stellar. Look, I know a lot of you may disagree with my theory around Bronwyn and why she may be on the show and why she's so open to share this information. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe just coinky dink, right? I just don't think that a man like Todd would be okay with his wife going on a reality show and unveiling information like that. Maybe he is. Maybe Father Todd signed off on this and I'm wrong. And I'll admit it if I am. I just don't think so. But I want to say thank you guys, all of you who joined me today in the chat. I really appreciate this. It's looking like I'm going to try this time out for the, see how it goes. So my goal is to go live Monday through Friday and recap the shows, talk about what's going on, and try to make this a everyday thing. And I hope you guys enjoyed the Salt Lake City episode last night. I hope you guys enjoyed this live. If you didn't, be nice. And thanks again for tuning in. And until the next time, I will talk to you on the next one. Bye, guys.
We need to talk about this.